if you want to move, just put on this song. We were all just grooving to it. How can you not move to reggae music? My gosh. This is Friday. It is Wear Red to Work Day. Get it? Red? Get it? Okay, right? And it's been going on with the American Heart Association for over 10 years, maybe even longer. I didn't research that. Yeah. But we're going to talk about why it's so important for women. So I'm talking to you, woman to woman. Sorry, guys. This is all about us today. And I'm your host, Diane Gatsis Havinga, for those of you who don't know me. And we have two of my fellow folks, heart women, who are also in red, to help us talk about this important topic and as to why it is so important that we take care of our heart. Because I'm sure some of you have heard, when a man has a heart attack, it's like, this is it. You kind of know. But when a woman has a heart attack, it can take weeks or months before you even know you have a heart attack. So joining us today is from our Green Spring Wellness Health Fitness Center. Did I say that right?
Sure.
Sure. Sheri Nidiffer, who is the director of that. She's also a regional director, so she covers more than just the wellness center here at Green Spring. She's also an RN. She has her PhD, et cetera, so she knows what she's talking about. And smart. Next to her, also in red, is from the fitness center, who's going to help us with that moving and grooving, Juanita. Hello. Thank you for joining. But let's now get serious. Yeah. And I always throw it to Sheri first because we want to get the heavy duty.
She's the doctor.
Right. Doc Sheri.
Doc Sheri.
We want to get the heavy duty stuff out of the way, and then we can have a little bit more lighter, fun stuff. And unfortunately, Helen Chung is unable to join us today, but we're still going to cover nutrition. So Sheri, I mentioned that women's symptoms versus men's symptoms for heart disease and heart attacks are completely different, which is why the Heart Association has really started a big campaign. And in February, because it's Valentine's Day in a week, they put the two together to love our hearts. So has anyone ever found out why there's such a difference between the two sexes?
Well, I think we've talked about it in years past, and most of it's because of the research that was done, was mostly done on men. So we really didn't know what was going on with women. You were looking for those standard, classic, I've got chest pain, I must be having a heart attack. And for some women that happens. But for a lot of women, what happens is it seems like it might be a mild indigestion, or I'm just feeling fatigued, something that seems to be a little bit more than just the normal tired. Something just seems to be nagging, or something seems to be wrong. Those are kind of the vague symptoms that happen. So it can happen where you have clutching chest pain radiating to your arm, radiating up into your jaw. Those are certainly things we look at. But in the differential diagnosis for women, especially if they have other histories, other medical conditions, we always think about the heart. It's a pretty important organ.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, what would be symptoms that women should keep an eye on besides the fatigue? Are there any other things that may be something that,
Well, if you're just not feeling quite right, maybe you've had a little bit of what you're considering to be reflux, and you're kind of talking yourself into, it's the sauce I ate, or it's
the chocolate
too late, or you're kind of saying you have these symptoms, but you're explaining them away. It's always a good idea to check in with the medical center here or your primary care physician. There's never really, a symptom that you want to just kind of
gloss
dismiss.
over?
Yeah, dismiss was a better way than the words I were coming up with. Yeah. So I think if you have any concern of that, and plus you have to kind of think about, those things in your life. Like is there any family history of heart disease? So that will kind of lead you to kind of think, what were the symptoms that they had maybe? Or do you have any high blood pressure or cholesterol problems? That's kind of raise your thoughts just a little. But I mean, a true story, we had actually an employee who doesn't work here anymore, and I ran into her one day, and she said, and she was in her 50s, and she said she had cut the grass, she had gone for a run, and she felt fine, but she just felt tired, like weirdly tired. So that's the key there, weirdly tired. And sure enough, she went in and she had had a heart attack. And she's doing fine. So, it doesn't all have to be the end
And
all.
really, the only way to know if you had a heart attack is it's blood work, right? It's not
Well,
just.
the blood work will tell you the acute.
Okay.
So if you're actually having one right away, it'll tell you the acute injury, because the heart is a muscle, so it gives off enzymes, and that's what we measure for the acute injury. If you have one that's happened in the past, a cardiologist might do like an EKG maybe, they might do a stress test, just to see how the heart is functioning, because again, it's a muscle and has to be exercised just like all of our other muscles.
All right. So, anything else do you want to throw out at us before we throw it to Juanita?
Well, I was going to just say, go read kind of what it talks about. So get your numbers is the first thing. So always know what your blood pressure is, know what your cholesterol is. That's really important. Know where you stand as far as obesity risk. These are all things that you really should know for yourself. And it's never too young to find that out. Own your lifestyle. So that's the O. And that's for stop smoking. Lose the weight if you need to. Exercise, eat healthy. We'll talk about some interesting healthy foods.
And those are things that Sheri just mentioned. Nobody can do those for you.
Right.
Own it. Only you can do that. We can't control the genetics or our family history, but this we can control.
Yeah.
What we put in our mouth, how much we move, how much we let stress affect us. Those are things that we can control.
Right. And then the R is for realize your risk. And we talked about this already. Know what your family risk is. Know what your past history is. So, the bad news is, 1 in 3 of us women will die of heart disease, which is a really
it's not going to
big.
be me.
Well, I didn't mean us 3. That didn't sound very good.
No, it didn't. There's just 3 of us here. One of us has got to go. It's not.
And then E is for educate. So educate your family. So, when I'm in the office and I ask somebody about, their mom or dad and their histories, they're like, I don't know what their history is. Find out, because what has happened with your parents, it could be a risk factor for you. So that might determine whether I need to put you on medication or not.
Especially the earlier that your relatives had the heart disease
Right.
or the
Absolutely right.
diabetes or whatever the case
Right.
may, the high blood pressure,
Right.
the more that should be versus, well, they were 103 and they had a heart attack. Well, okay, I think you're,
But 45, that's something else.
But if you think back to, I know like my parents, that era didn't tell their kids what was wrong with them. But things have changed. So the younger staff that I'm seeing now are just not having the conversation, and people are actually being more open about their history. So this is something that's really important.
And I would say for our viewers, this is where you need to have the conversation with your family to say, hey, did you know I had a heart attack? If they probably maybe know that, but my mother died of heart disease, or my father, or whatever, and that way they get that information. So then, again, they can relate it to the medical
That's
staff.
a good point.
That's very
Talk to
good.
your children about that, because it's really important for them too. And I think if you look at it in that light, like it's important for me to tell my kids, maybe not when they're 10 or 11, but when they get older, tell them about my risk, and then that's important. And the last one was don't be silent. So talk to your friends. I mean, Juanita and I have been great friends for a very long time. We talk about health all the time. Usually we're telling each other if we didn't exercise or we did. Not always the best influence on each other, but and you and I have been great friends for a long time, and I see you biking in and out of work.
Yes.
And when I go through here, just to tell you just the 5 best exercises to do. Bike ride, I was so excited to see bike riding on that, because it actually says, and I have to read this for you, Diane, because I know that Juanita is going to cover all the exercising. But bike riding, cycling, says that cycling 32 kilometers a week, you're way past that, reduces the potential to develop heart disease, which I know is important to you, by a whopping 50%.
Okay, I guess I will bike tomorrow, Lorraine.
So, yeah. So I think that's really, I was excited to read that, because you know the data always changes and they always have the neatest little tips. But yeah, so biking was important.
In that whole movement, and we saw at the very beginning, you know, we tend to be sitting all the time, although I see more and more employees here who stand at their desks. You know, their whole concept now is to have a standing desk so you're not sitting, you know, getting up, moving, doing things like that, which gives me into Juanita, because we're talking about moving and not being sedentary. And there are just really small things that an individual can do that will get them to that next step.
Yep. And just what you said, really, there's really no easy way to put this, so here goes.
Okay.
Just like Diane said, being sedentary can kill you, and that's the bottom line. So whatever you have to do to just start moving is one of the most important things you'll ever do for yourself. And I was listening to my radio station, maybe some people have heard this before, but they're having this 3-minute challenge. And so you're going, 3 minutes? What can you do in 3 minutes? But they're saying most normal songs are about 3 minutes if you're listening to the radio. And if you're watching TV, we were just discussing, you know, some people say, we'll be back in 1 minute, and then, or 2 minutes, but we were going, no, they're longer than that. It's got to be longer than that. So we'll just say that commercials are 3 minutes. So in 3 minutes, and that's like a song, if you're at home and, you know, just messing around, writing letters or reading, and you've got the radio on in the background, then in 3 minutes, they say, whatever you're doing, get up and start moving for 3 minutes. Now we're talking about our heart, so it wouldn't be like this. Okay, it's not that. Okay. It's 3 minutes, something to get your heart rate going. So walk around your apartment 3 minutes, walk in place, open your legs, just 3 minutes. And when that song ends, hopefully, you know your heart rate will be faster. That's a good thing, because you want to raise your heart rate, because that's going to strengthen it. Just like Sheri was saying, raising your heart rate strengthens it. So we want to do whatever we can. And you know what? If someone goes, yeah, I can't, I don't like to march. Okay, then you just pick up your leg, because that's going to be work. You kick it out, whatever you need to do. But if you can march quickly, then that's what you want to do. If you can hold on to your chair and do little feet, that's even better. You know, the faster you can go, the faster you can move in place or around the apartment, the better.
I think you could also probably put that old stereo on, you know, and when that piece of music comes on, you can just crank up the volume and do some dancing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those, I know that so many of our residents here, they already exercise. And so here's the other point. For every 1 hour of exercise that you get, you have 2 additional hours of life.
So
2.
And it doesn't matter if it's in a day or in a week, or
no, it doesn't. The research just says for every hour that you are active, you have 2 hours more. That extends your life by 2 hours.
She's going to be 200.
So when we talk about that 1 and 3 and the other, that's you and me.
We're just gonna extend our life.
Start moving.
So that's a good thing. Yeah. And for our residents, the exercise not only extends your life, but it extends the healthy part of your life. You know, it may be that we women, our average is 82. Okay, but out of that 82, about 75 of it is healthy. Okay, we want to increase the healthy part of that life, of our life. Not just extend it to be laying in a bed. You know, we want to extend it to be walking and playing and seeing our grandkids and passing on our history, you know, the family history to our grandkids.
So those of our residents who do have issues with being able to stand, what if I am in a chair? Can I still do some movement?
You bet you can. We have 6 chair fit classes a week and just added 2 Parkinson's. One is a chair stretch and the other one's a Parkinson's class. So we have, and then Channel 6 has
the
exercise
shows.
on Channel 6 for people that say, I don't want to get out of the apartment, or I want to exercise in my PJs. Then you have it on, there's a schedule of all of our classes that you have, and then you can, if they say, well, it's not at a convenient time for me, I want to do it, but it's at 9 in the morning, I sleep till 10, then you can come here and they can buy a copy.
You can get copies, plus most of them are on our YouTube channel.
Oh, there you go. They're on the YouTube channel.
And so that means when you travel to your kids in California or go to Europe, you can still get us on YouTube and exercise in your hotel room.
How cool would that be? Like you go to your kid's house and you're like, I want to do the exercise from where I live. And then they see that. That's kind of impressive.
Right.
That's
So
kind of nice.
Very.
And
So
we have a whole
provide
variety.
a lot of opportunities.
Right. So it doesn't matter if I'm standing, as long as I'm doing some kind
Yes.
of movement that
Well,
elevates the
yeah,
heart.
Exactly. I mean, you can elevate, I'm telling you, I teach a chair fit class. I elevate my heart rate doing it. You will. Doing just a little bit more than you've done before is one of the principles of fitness. You're just overloading your body a little bit. Your body is going to adjust to that, and then you'll get stronger.
Then you feel like doing more.
Exactly.
Because it releases those endorphins
Yes,
that
it
actually
does.
make you feel good.
Yes, and for a lot of people, we've lost family, we've lost friends, we've lost our pets. It's depressing. You're depressed. The number one way to elevate your mood is by exercise. I mean, you don't feel like it. You don't feel like it because when you're depressed, you want to stay in bed or you want to stay by yourself. But if you exercise, and I mean, I love it when people come to class because then there's a social thing. You get to be around people, you talk to people, you meet people, it's more fun. You'll do a little bit more if you have someone beside you. And then it makes you feel better. And then it like Sheri said, it just releases the chemicals that your body naturally makes when you elevate your heart rate for an extended period of time, then you feel better. And research says like this 3-minute challenge, which by radio station
So
does.
one time a day?
No,
Or you need to
more
do
often.
it multiple? Okay.
Yeah, well, a little more often, you know. We just say if you did that 3 minutes an hour, you know, 3 minutes an hour. That's going to add up to time. If you keep track of time, you know, American College of Sports Medicine wants you to go 30 minutes a day.
Yes.
But you could do in 10-minute increments. Why can't you do it in 3? You could.
So instead of taking that shuttle bus, maybe you should walk to the dining room.
Yes.
Or driving your car, walking to the dining room, right?
And
Or-
walk to the fitness center. That'll be your warm up. By golly, we're in the corner. So you walk to the fitness center, you'll be all warmed up. If you need to set, there's chairs along the way to set. But come on in and come visit and meet some of your friends again.
So we've talked about exercise, we've talked about the symptoms and the risk factors and what we need to, and owning everything. And I know we're missing Helen because she was going to demo some
Delicious recipes that were healthy.
heart healthy recipe.
I
But
didn't eat lunch.
Sheri has come to the rescue in terms of filling in nutritionally what we put in our mouth. As Juanita said, that's where we have the control. So what should we be putting in our
Well,
mouths?
it's interesting too, because you think about like, and you can exercise your calories away. Well, you really can't. I mean, your diet and the healthy weight is almost like 75 to 90% what you put in your mouth, which is really scary.
It's scary.
It's
but
scary.
Every nutritionist will tell you, the way you look is what you put in your mouth.
Yeah. Helen would be happy with us to share
You
that.
would be happy.
So I did find there was a top 14 foods for heart disease, but
Okay.
I did only do the top 7.
Now, these are the ones we should be eating?
These are the ones we should be
Okay,
eating.
so listen up.
So the first one on there is watermelon. Now, that doesn't sound bad, does it?
No,
That sounds
watermelon.
great. It's
Okay.
high in fiber and a great source of antioxidants, which is really good. It lowers your heart disease risk and your cancer risk. The only worry with the watermelon, if you have diabetes, be careful because it does have a high glycemic index. But other than that, if you don't have diabetes, eat to your heart's content because
It's got a lot of water in it too, which
Yes.
most of our residents
Need.
need.
Yeah, it's like 70% water. It's crazy. The second one everybody loves is yogurt. Now, I'm not talking about the one with like 28 grams of sugar.
The ones
But
with all the...
yogurt actually protects you from gum disease, which leads to heart disease, because a lot of people with gum disease, it goes to your heart. It helps you, and you know this, probiotics and overall gut health. So yogurt, we won't go into all the details, but that was the highlights.
But gut health also, they're talking about, really does have a lot to do with your brain.
Oh, yeah.
Gut health is very important
Yeah.
for your mood, brain.
Tomatoes.
Yay,
I
I
love
love tomatoes.
Well, now I love tomatoes in the summer. You know, they're harder for me to
Yeah,
eat
yeah,
now,
and
but they're summer. But they're healthy in vitamin C, which really helps our cells. So it really gets down all the way to the basic part of our cells, which is awesome. Berries.
And, yes, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries,
Any
right?
berry.
Boysenberry.
Yeah,
those are
boysenberry. So they actually increases your good cholesterol or your HDL. We call it the happy cholesterol. It lowers your bad cholesterol or your lousy cholesterol and lowers your blood pressure.
Really? Why?
That's
So,
a lot.
I'm
Isn't
glad
that awesome?
I have a whole bunch of blueberries every morning.
Frozen.
How
Now,
about
now the next one is for Juanita, particularly because it's beans.
I love beans.
And you know,
Chili.
the food section in the Washington Post yesterday, or Wednesday, excuse me, had a whole thing about beans and how Americans don't embrace beans like the rest of the world, but they're starting to come into that.
Well,
So,
one of the reasons I was reading the book, and I'm sorry I can't tell you what the book was, but it was talking about how beans, the reason why they're not as healthy is because the way that they're prepared. You know, the healthy beans are prepared and not processed and everything, but there are a lot of healthy aspects to beans. It's a soluble fiber. It's the fiber in those beans, and that's really good.
Helps your cholesterol.
and
yeah.
again, another article I read last week in the Post, a woman talked about the fact if people ate lentils every day, that's really all they would need in terms of being able to get into a good, healthy situation.
Well, it binds to your cholesterol, so it takes it right out.
And they're high in protein, which you need.
Yes. 2 last things, avocados. Who doesn't love an avocado? Lots of potassium in there. It controls your blood pressure. It's got vitamin C's, and it decreases your overall risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. And last but not least is my favorite, collard greens, because I am a Southern girl.
Not
So
spinach,
vitamins
not-
K, A, C, folate, magnesium, you got it. It's in those collards. So collards are really good. They actually also help you clot the way you're supposed to clot. So I think Helen would be really happy with us talking about
I
those
think so
things.
too, but we don't have
Absolutely.
any samples to
I
sample
think we could
any
put
of
them
this.
all in one blender and
Oh,
see
there
what that
you
tastes
go.
like. Maybe not. Before we leave, though, I do
It's
want
probably
to
gonna be
mention
a V8.
the one last thing, which we did not talk about this, but stop smoking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a given. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you know,
Do people still smoke?
It's really, well, we're smoking and we're vaping, and it's really a really big risk. That is the one thing you can do to really stop. It doesn't matter. That's probably the one thing that we know the most about, and that we've been educating people the most about the risks, and people still are picking up a cigarette. So anyway, just I didn't want to go off without mentioning that, because that's probably right up there as number one.
I actually don't see that. The only time I see it around campus, now I don't really see many residents, but of course that could be we're a smoke-free campus. They can only smoke on their
In their
their
apartment.
own apartment or patio. But I've had to
The
say
contractors,
the contractors.
yes, the
So it
construction
seems like
workers.
the younger people are smoking more. I think the residents are pretty darn smart. If they're not addicted, I mean, my dad was given cigarettes in World War II and became addicted to that until he had cancer of the lip and had that cut off. But I think that we just, like Sheri said, we did not have the research. Back then, I don't think they knew that.
Right.
Now we know. And I feel like our older folks are much smarter than that, but some of the young ones are just like,
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's really sad.
it's sad.